What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are giving a state of the market and stock picks for May 26, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead in this lovely, crazy market that is 2022. So being said, state of the market, where are we at? Today we were waiting for FOMC minutes. In that detailed documentation, what one thing, there wasn't really a lot of information in there, but what we can pull from it is essentially that the Fed are coming at it very hawkish. And now we've talked about this before because they don't want inflation to run away. But the document made it seem like as though they were coming in at so hawkish that they're going to eventually let off the gas because they think that after a 50-point basis move and another 50-point basis move during next month, that they could actually see a difference. And if they come at it hawkish in that approach, essentially going 50-point basis moves, not really saying anything about a 75 or 100-point basis move, although it's been talked about quite a bit, that can dial down the inflation enough to the point that they'll catch up and they won't have to get too crazy with it. But 50-point basis moves are on the board. Then they'll eventually overshoot once those numbers come down to where they would like them. That then they can start dialing back. And I believe they said that they see that coming here this year, which is impressive in itself. So we really have to see. Again, they don't believe we're going to go into a recession. Now, the GDP has to come in, the inflation or the growth needs to come in again better than last month, right? Or else, 2 bad months of GDP is going to, what's going to end up doing is essentially forecast that we are officially in a recession for 2 quarters. We still got some time before we see if that's what the case is or not. But nonetheless, and then we got a lot of other different things that are going on. We had a couple other earnings today that tanked pretty heavy. First one essentially being, so the first one being Snow did really poorly. NVIDIA did very poorly. Again, it's all expected. We've had a lot of different earnings come in, essentially saying it's mainly just forward guidance and supply strain issues because of what's going on with the war, something that we kind of forecasted, but now we're starting to see. I think the market's already corrected to absorb a lot of that stuff already. So it'd be interesting to see how we land. And it's something I keep talking about every night because it matters where we land. But one thing is for certain is that we are holding very well around this area. Again, Powell came out and reiterated just a couple of days ago that he likes where the market is at. So Powell likes it roughly around this 38.67. I think that's where 75 point or 50 or 75-point basis move is around this area. Now, if we actually come in at 75, I believe we'll try to retest this level, depending on how far. If we do start rallying, I think we'll come back down to this level. If we do come with a 75-point basis move, if we come in at a 100-point basis move, you're going to have to take another 5% from there. So if you're looking from here, now again, this is just how I am predicting this market and what it's trying to do as far as pricing in. So you're looking around 36.91. I think is let's bring that a little bit lower. 36.94. We'll go 36.93. Roughly, I think is where we could drop. Again, that would still be within support here. If we're going for a 100-point basis move, that does come to fruition at some point. If it keeps being talked about, we'll see in the next meeting. If the next meeting they hit 50 points again, I think the market will rally off of that. If it comes anything 50 points or lower than that, I think the market will rally. The market will take that as a good sign. Perhaps the market thinks that we've hit peak inflation. So we're going to have to really see how this does play out from that point. But I think this is a good base for now. We have to see how we open. We had a very strong push up for Powell again because nothing really came out aside from the fact that essentially they feel that we won't be hitting a recession. So that was some positive news. Now, is that going to be enough positive news to rip this market back up? I think it could be, but we are testing the second trend line. We did break to the second trend line and then reject. Again, depends on how we open tomorrow. We could float around this 396, 39.56 mark. If we do, it's going to be very, very tight like it was today until it breaks above this. And then as soon as it breaks above this, then you're going to have that strong resistance at 40.57 to break. And then again, if we can break the daily, then we have the monthly to break back over in hopes to try to pull this thing back out of the gutter. But again, the Fed and everything that's going on with the Fed is, I think, in a more positive light. The fact that they're kind of overshooting. Now, Kathy Woods has also talked about this, essentially saying that the government was overshooting on the 50-point basis move, that it wasn't necessary. So it's kind of lining up with what Kathy Wood was saying, that they're overdoing it right now, that it's not necessary. And then you had the report coming out that the Fed was purposely doing it so that they can kind of catch up and then ease off eventually, knowing that they are overdoing it right now. So it kind of lines up with Kathy Wood's story that they're overdoing it, that eventually the inflation, it has some kind of transitory aspect to it, that it'll eventually die down, that we're perhaps hitting peak and that it's going to start rolling off. Again, a lot of the different things that Kathy Wood has predicted is come to fruition as far as the over supply when it's come to like Target and Walmart. A lot of retail and stuff ordered bulk because they're trying to catch up with the pandemic. Now that the pandemic is essentially under control and everything, all of that massive bulk order that they were doing to keep up with demand, now the demand isn't there, so now they got all this excess supply, no demand. So that stuff has come to fruition. Again, the inflation, where it's sitting, yes, we're very high. I think it could be very much possible that the Fed are, again, overdoing it with 50-point basis moves just to try to get it to a point to where they can dial back or not do anything and go into one of these meetings and not actually do anything. And then they are saying that in the beginning of 2023 that inflation will be back down to normal. Again, that must be seen, but it is a huge step forward because they were saying 2023 was going to be really bad as well. So in the futures, we're pricing in some really high numbers. So being said, it is looking good, but again, we have to let the market digest it and see where we land in the morning. There's a lot of resistance we got to break through. Maybe the little bit of information we got today is enough to start a rally because of the no recession talk from the Fed in the report. So we have to see, but we're not going to know if we are officially in a recession until after Q2, and then we get those inflation numbers to determine that. So, or those growth numbers to determine that. Being said, that is where we are there. Bitcoin is doing extremely well in holding. I know a lot of people want this thing to tank down to 10, but again, a lot of the underlying systems are being put in place for crypto to start becoming a big part of everybody's life, whether you want it to or not. And so I think this is only a matter of time. I think it's just like the market running in parallel. The market get a rally. You also get a rally in Bitcoin, bring Bitcoin back over 30 and start breaking back some of these levels back to the upside. Again, I think Bitcoin is going to normalize here. So you're not going to see big, massive moves. I don't think there's any kind of, if there is any kind of massive rally to 100K for Bitcoin, I think, I'll be honest, I think that ship has sailed for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin does reach 100K, I think it's going to be a slow and steady push over time. It's not going to be as parabolic as it has been, especially with all these underlying payment systems and everything coming into place. Facebook has also taken up Bitcoin as well. They decided to drop trying to create their own cryptocurrency. So you're getting some major players in there that are trying to stabilize it somewhat. And when it starts stabilizing, you don't get as much these parabolic moves. And again, like I've stated, you see this in a lot of different companies that come into the SPX, they come into the indexes, that they start to normalize. And then those once parabolic moves that you saw, not saying they can't go away, but they're much subtler than they used to be. when you start normalizing these, because they have to be controlled somewhat, so they don't have such volatility. So I think we've kind of seen that in Bitcoin, because we're slowly starting to see that, and we're not getting such crazy 30K haircuts. Yes, they are still happening. Again, the technology is still very new, so I'm sure you're going to have to try to iron out some of these wrinkles. But eventually, I think you'll start seeing more of that, and then you'll start seeing more of the volatility in the altcoins, as opposed to your Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to stabilize even more from that point. So the next one we got is Tesla. As always, again, I actually bought into this at 625. I actually had an order for this back when Tesla was up at 700. I completely forgot about this order, and it filled yesterday actually. And so it looks like we're starting to try to break that wedge. Again, something you want to watch tomorrow. This is the first initial wedge we're trying to break. If we can open up above this to 664 tomorrow, I think there'd be a strong possibility we could make a really strong push. Possibly even, I mean, you're going to have the 700, you have 700 psychological level, but if we could break that, you got a pretty strong case to 775 for Tesla. And then again, the market itself has a lot of resistance. So I could see us perhaps chopping around this area, maybe into the next earnings, before you see a bigger push to the upside. Tesla normally doesn't do a lot of pushes outside of earnings. Normally it's a pre-earnings run up, and then you'll start seeing that massive push. It'll run for about 2 weeks or so, and then from that point, you could potentially get another push the week after earnings, and then it kind of just dies off, and you got to kind of let it sit for like 4 to 5 weeks before you play it again, because you get this sell off. It's typically how the cycle goes. Now, let's see, as far as any other ones tomorrow, what I'm watching now seems to be pretty interesting to me. I like this potential wedge break here. Today, there was a massive move here today. I want to see if now can actually hold above the 446 tomorrow. If it does, potentially break the 454 mark. Actually break above the 454 and hold above that. Then you can get a strong push up to possibly 485 and start reversing this thing. Service now isn't one I do play all the time, so I would say proceed with caution with this one, only because of the fact I'm not really quite sure. It is hitting that top level, and just like the index, we want to see if it can actually break out and actually do anything. As soon as we get these pumps, so they're normally shorted, so we want to see if that report is enough to keep us going into the next day. NVIDIA has had earnings, so tomorrow will be interesting to watch with NVIDIA. It's tanked down to that lower level, but it's holding. Tomorrow, if we rally, watch this key level 170. If it breaks that, I think it could at least go up to possibly 180 tomorrow. So one I definitely want to keep on watch. Again, I think it's a lot of forward guidance that are taking these down. It looks like it beat overall estimate and actual, so it did beat. So this could potentially start running. A lot of these, again, forward guidance, especially on chips. So this could be a good one to watch tomorrow. Again, this is a pretty solid level sitting here at the 158. See if we can pop back up to the 170. Again, if we could break that, looking at the 180 tomorrow. So keeping that one on watch tomorrow. Snow is the other one that had earnings. I want to kind of bring up some of the ones that have earnings tomorrow. They've actually didn't do so hot, so that's actually quite interesting to see. I don't see Snow on here. But estimated actual, so they had a bigger loss, so they did sink pretty heavy tomorrow. So this may be one to watch tomorrow as far as more to the downside. Again, the levels down at this level. It hasn't been this level. It just IPO'd last year. I think we'll open up at 450 or something. So these levels down here are unexplored. So this thing could sink pretty heavy tomorrow. So if you're looking for something on the downside, if the market does decide to turn, this could be a good one for the short side tomorrow. as it already has some bad news. And again, look for the pop. If it does pop, you could possibly enter a short at the 126 mark if it does pop that high, but definitely one to watch tomorrow going in. And then Amazon, I've been kind of closely watching this one. I think it could rise. It tried to break out today. It had a nice little push out of the wedge break. If this one really starts ripping, you really want it out of this 2160 mark. It's like a lot of other things. A lot of things, charts are looking the same because, again, that fear, we're trying to break away. It's going to take some time for this stuff to start breaking up, not all looking the same. But again, if we get a breaker above the 2159 mark, this thing could potentially run at least back to 2200. Could potentially get some legs and really start running. Google could also be the other one, another big one. Watching, you really needed to break this level of 2140. Again, you want to be careful with this one too because that bad news that's from Snap in ads really started sinking this one yesterday, and so you don't want to make sure there's no continuation back down to the 2037. Although if it does hold 2037 tomorrow, if the market does play a range, could potentially play this back to the 2130, and then potentially possibly heading back up to try to test that 20 EMA on the daily. But that's pretty much what I got. Short and sweet. Don't want to put too much on paper on here for you guys because right now it's really market sentiment and how the index is landing, and then kind of take it from that point. That's why I do morning calls. If you don't check me out at Hemi 137, I do morning calls there every morning, about 30 minutes to 45 minutes before the bell, to kind of get you prepared on what I'm looking at and where the market could potentially be heading for the day. So check me out there. And aside from that, go ahead and drop a like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.